Alright guys, so today we got an unboxing and overview of the Adidas Adios Pro 3, and my trusty assistant, little Reevesy boy, is going to help me with the unboxing. But this guy right here is the Adizero Boston 12, and the whole reason why I'm ordering the Adios Pro 3 and got it in the office now goes back to this guy. This has been my all-time favorite plated training shoe. It can do fast, it can do long, it can do everything I'd want in a marathon training shoe. I love the way this Light Strike Pro foam feels, and I love what they've done to give it a little bit more stability and a more structured feel out here in the back with this EVA. Now there are some issues with the shoe, like the upper, the fit isn't great compared to some other plated training shoes, but I absolutely have loved this thing so far through almost 300 miles. So you guys have heard me wax poetic about this shoe for months, and you've also been requesting that I get the Adios Pro 3 on the channel to review, so that's what I've done for you today. It all stems back to my love of the Boston 12, and I'm hoping that the Adios Pro 3 can live up to everything that this shoe has delivered for me, but in a more race-oriented package. And we've got some tough competition out there in the racing market now, so this is going to be a fun one. All right guys, let's get into it. All right buddy, let's do this thing. Who knew? There's not just running warehouse, there's tennis warehouse, pickleball, inline warehouse, fishing warehouse, and riding warehouse. All your enthusiast sports needs. What's the difference between size and that? What's that? Wanna help? Bang! Now today we got the Adidas Adios Pro 3, part of the Adizero collection. This is an oldie but a goodie. By the way, my voice is 90% back, so I don't need to chomp down on any cigars for the visual effect today. But this is one of the top tier racing shoes out here. This has won a ton of podiums 2022, 2023, and it hasn't been updated for a while, whereas a lot of the other marathon racers shoes are getting updates. We got that Metaspeed update coming through today. Adidas actually told me at TRE that they had a Pro 4 in the works for 2023, and it got delayed because of some production and environmental standard issues internally. So I don't have any information on the Pro 4 yet, but if you are considering racing with an Adidas, this is going to be your top spring marathon choice. Now, the first thing I'm noticing about this guy here is the Light Strike Pro foam. Now, because this hasn't been updated for a few years, the midsole is going to be the same exact thing as when it launched. However, I'm comparing the look and the feel of the Light Strike Pro in here to my older Adidas shoes, specifically the Takumi Sen and the Boston 12, and the foam looks a little bit different. So if you look at this Takumi Sen here and what you're getting in this Light Strike Pro, it has a little bit more of an off-white or tan look to it, and that's not just because it's dirty. There is an off-white sheen to this foam, and the bubbles look a little bit more like they're inside the foam, whereas on the new version of the Adidas shoes and in this Adios Pro 3, the bubbles, and let me see if I can get a good angle, good lighting on this for you guys. Now take a look at that. If you can see the texture here, the bubbles look like they're popping out of the foam, and they're giving us a little bit more of this raised sandpaper look. So again, let's compare it to the Boston 12 here. You can see the Light Strike Pro is a little bit more of that cream or off-white color. In the Adios Pro 3, it is more of a pure white color with the bubbles popping out. This also has a softer touch to it. Look at that. Look how deep I can get my finger into this foam here versus in the Adios Pro 3. It's just a little bit of a different feeling. So I'm not sure if they did something slight to change the formulation of foam here or if it's just a paint job, but I did notice that with the Takumi Sen 10 versus the Takumi Sen 8. In the Takumi Sen 10, it seems like this Light Strike Pro foam is a little bit of a different foam than we see in the Light Strike Pro and the Takumi Sen 8 on the bottom. If you just take a look at these, even to the eye test here, you can see they look a lot different with the way that the light reflects off of them, with the way that the shadows hit it. It just seems like a different foam. And underfoot, the Takumi Sen 8 felt a little bit softer and bouncier. Takumi Sen 10 felt a little bit denser and firmer. So I'll be interested to see, is this Light Strike Pro the same thing that we had in the Takumi Sen 8 and 10, or have they put a slightly updated version in the Adios Pro 3 because this has been in production and they did change the Light Strike Pro foam. Now this nice red we got here is the Scarlet / Aurora colorway. I think it looks pretty sick. So this green is one of their new colors. You can see we got the same similar sort of a green here situation on the Takumi Sen 10. The specs on this guy are going to be up close to 40 millimeters in the heel. Running Warehouse reports it as 39.5 in the heel, 33 in the forefoot for a 6.5 millimeter drop. Now on the bottom, we do get a full length pancake of this Continental rubber, and this is one of the best rubbers in the game, super grippy. And we got these carbon fiber rods here instead of a carbon fiber plate. Now, it is a little bit surprising that I haven't tried the shoe yet, but so many of you have been telling me that I gotta try it because it has a little bit of a denser feel, a little bit of a slightly firmer, more stable feel than the Vaporfly with this Light Strike Pro we're getting. And let's compare it to the Vaporfly to see the differences. So I absolutely love the Nike Vaporfly. This is the Vaporfly 3 here. I love this shoe for the half marathon because it's light and the foam doesn't feel too heavy. It doesn't feel like too much cushion underfoot, which I love for the half distance. But for the marathon, I'm worried that it's not gonna have enough stability for me. So if you take a look at how narrow this heel is out in the back and then compare that to the Adios Pro 3 here, you're getting a little bit more of this nice chunk in the heel. And the Light Strike Pro is just gonna have a little bit of a denser feel versus the Zoom X here is really soft. Now again, looking at the bottom here, the midfoot is an area where you can really see the differences. The Adios Pro 3 is much wider in this midfoot to close to the back of the forefoot. Take a look here. The Nike Vaporfly is extremely narrow. It really encourages a forefoot strike versus the Adios Pro 3 here. I believe it's going to be a little bit better for my rear mid to heel landing. Now, one thing I'm super curious to test is the upper because the Nike Vaporfly and also the Alphafly have two of the best uppers in the game. Take a look at all these little holes throughout it. It is super breathable, super lightweight. That's what allows this guy to have a super lightweight in my size. I believe that the Adios Pro 3 is going to be a little bit heavier. It feels a little bit heavier in my hands. And the uppers that have been on the Adizero shoes for me haven't been the most enjoyable. The Boston 12 is okay, but the heel lockdown around the back of the Boston 12 was a little bit sloppy. And if you take a look at this, they are very similar rears here. It does look like the Boston 12 has a little bit more material. These are both 10.5 US men's. So I'll be interested to see how the lockdown goes around the back here, especially as I start doing some cornering and pushing the pace in the Adios Pro 3. And again, guys, look at the difference between the top layer of Light Strike Pro and this Boston 12 here versus the Adios. They just look so different to the eye here. And I'm not sure if this off-white is colored in a certain way or if that's the true color of the foam, but to the eyes, they look like two different foams. So this will be interesting to see. And we also see some foam cutouts here to save weight. Adidas was one of the first brands to really popularize this look, this muscular, aggressive cutout look. I'm sure there's other brands doing it, but they put it on the main stage. And when New Balance dropped that ST Elite V4, which we got back there, you can see that yellow tennis ball looking shoe. People said it looked like one of the Adizero shoes because of what they did with it. Now, one last thing I want to point out before we go out there is look at this aggressive rocker up front. It just completely curves up. It is a lot different than what's on my Vaporfly here, which is more of this nice, gentle sloping from close to the forefoot up here. The Pro 3 is much more aggressive. I'm really excited to see how this does. So this looks super clean. It's got a foam that I know I like. Now we just got to lace it up, take it for a ride, see how it does. All right, guys, time for the first run in the Adios Pro 3. Now, it actually looks like it might rain today, so we might be doing a Continental rubber grip test as well. So my plan for today is to get 10 miles in fast. I've been feeling like recently I've got a lot of volume, but, oh, okay. The fit of these is going to be that classic snug Adidas upper. Let's see. But I've been feeling like I'm getting a lot of volume in, but not that much speed. So today we're going to do a workout progression, 10 miles with the first 6 to 8 around marathon effort, and then finishing with the last 2 at a threshold pace. So aiming to get down to around 6 flat on the last 2 miles. Now, the room in the toe box here isn't bad. It reminds me kind of the Boston 12, and I do have some room up here in the front. I'm not absolutely jammed against the front here. The fit is very similar to the Boston 12. I'm wondering if I'm going to need to relace these. Even as I'm just doing them right here, it feels like I might have to work with these laces a tiny bit to get the fit right. This is something that happened with the Takumi Sen as well. I have to really fight with the lacing system and almost do each individual eyelet by itself to get it right versus some other shoes. You know how it goes, you can just crank the laces from the top and everything falls into place. That is not the deal with the Adios Pro 3 or Takumi Sen. All right, so initial step in here, it feels pretty similar to the Boston 12. I'm actually surprised at how wide the base of these are. I know you guys told me this was a nice stable shoe, but it really does feel solid. It feels a lot more normal walking here, especially than the Vaporfly and a lot of the other racers I've tried. So I'm eager to get some pace in these things. So I will save all of the talking for the analysis, and let's get into this run. All right, guys, 10 miles, average 6:40 pace, and as I was coming back in, look at that. FedEx pulled up on us with 2 more boxes, so we're going to be stacked up for the next few days. Man, I think some of you might be surprised to hear this, but I did not love these. I'm surprising myself saying that out loud, because I think I've loved or gotten along well with every Adidas shoe that I've ever run in. One of my first pairs of running shoes was an Ultra Boost. 700 miles on that guy, loved it. Adizero SL, loved it. Boston, loved it. Takumi Sen, loved it. Adios Pro 3, I don't know. All right, guys, so 10 miles complete in the Adidas Adizero Adios Pro 3. Now, I gotta tell you guys, I did not love this thing, and I know a lot of you are gonna be surprised because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Boston 12 has been one of my favorites, and I know it's a little bit of a controversial shoe. Some people love that shoe, some people hate it. I actually recommended this to my guy, Andrew, midlife runner, and I know he didn't love it at first. By the way, guys, I'm gonna be on his podcast coming out soon. I'm filming it tonight, so shout out to Midlife Runner, go follow his channel. But he didn't love this shoe. I've recommended it to some other runners who did not love this shoe. I have a blast every time I put this on and I run fast. Now this guy here, it was not fun. That's the most surprising thing I think about the shoe. It did not have the same degree of fun that I get out of the Boston 12, that I got out of the Takumi Sen. And what's so great about this shoe is when you land mid to forefoot or even heel striking but running fast and you roll through that stride, you get a nice pop from this Light Strike Pro up here in the forefoot, and it has this soft, just for a brief second, a nice soft squishing feeling, and then it pops you right back up. With this guy here, it felt much denser, much firmer, and I was running anywhere from 640 to 620, I believe was my fastest split. So right there around that marathon effort, and it felt at those paces, maybe I wasn't running with the requisite speed to unlock everything that this shoe could offer. Now the stability was good, the lockdown was good, there were no issues with how this shoe felt. It just felt like it was missing a little bit something for me to feel confident strapping it up for race day. Now of course this was just a first run, but I've had many other first runs with these racers and fell in love with them right away, or had a bit of a better sense that they might work well for my mechanics. A good example of that is the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 3. Now this likely isn't a shoe that I would race a marathon in, but for the half marathon distance, it's a nice option. It feels really lightweight on foot. I love the way that this ZoomX compresses for my half marathon pace, and it's not the most stable shoe, but at my half marathon pace, it doesn't matter as much because I'm not spending as much time contacting the ground on the back of the platform here. So this is a shoe I actually ran in only one time before I used it for my half marathon PR last year. Now another one that I've been loving a lot recently is the Diadora Gara here, and a lot of you actually recommended that I try the Adios Pro 3 when I was talking so much about the Diadora Gara. This thing feels a little bit softer, it feels more fun, it feels like there's a nice snap to it up front, a nice easy roll through the stride that I wasn't quite getting with the Adidas Adios Pro 3. Now if we take a look at these two and compare the foam, I think that's going to be the key difference here. So if we look at the Light Strike Pro here, it's a little bit firmer to the touch. This Anima PBX, you can see as I push it in, very scientifically here by the way, I can get my fingers a little bit deeper in here and it's a little bit softer and squishier. And that is a really noticeable difference between these two. So I use the Diadora Gara here for my 22-mile run on Sunday. Now I would say I'm probably equally rested on Sunday versus today, so it isn't anything about my legs being tired or a bit different part of my training cycle. I'd say I gave these both a fair shot. So 22-miler on Sunday, running with some miles around that same 640 pace, and this felt like it just worked a lot better for my stride. It's easier easier to run in. It's got a little bit more of a soft bounce. The Adios Pro 3 here felt a little bit firm, a little bit dense, and even when I was pushing the pace, it didn't feel completely natural for my foot strike. Now, I already mentioned earlier that I thought this Light Strike Pro foam might have looked a little bit different between the Adios Pro 3 here and the Boston 12. And again, you can see if we line them up here, there is a little bit of a different color in the Boston 12 foam versus the Adios Pro 3 foam. But the other thing that's going to be different between these two is the rods. Now, the Adios Pro 3 right here, this is using the carbon rods. The Adidas Boston 12 has glass fiber rods. So if we take a look at this, I'm going to try to bend the shoe here. It is very stiff. Whereas if I bend the Boston 12, it's also very stiff, but I get a little bit more flexibility, especially in the forefoot here. So I'm wondering if that's a key difference with the ride and why I prefer the Boston 12 a little bit. I'm wondering if my weight, my height, my foot strike, whatever it is, I'm not able to put down enough power into the forefoot here to really activate the combination of that rods with the foam in the Adios Pro 3. Whereas in the Boston 12, even though a lot of you guys thought it was firm and stiff, for me, the shoe worked absolutely perfectly. Now, in terms of the weight of this guy, it did come in heavier than the Vaporfly 3 on the weigh-in. Let's cut to that now. All right, guys, quick weigh-in here. We got the Pro 3 at 242 grams. Let's compare that to the Vaporfly. Vaporfly is 203 grams. So Pro 3 here is considerably heavier. And it generally feels like a more substantial shoe than a lot of the other marathon racing shoes that I've run in. Now, I will do more head-to-head comparisons with this shoe, but as of today, I much prefer the Vaporfly, the Diadora Gara, the Boston 12. The only shoe that I don't think I would take over this is the Nike Alphafly Next% 3, because that is not good for heel strikers. I will say, even though I didn't completely fall in love with the ride of this today, I'm still gonna give it a shot. The foam might break in, but it did work okay for my mechanics in that I didn't feel like it was an awkward shoe to run in. It's just missing that fun, that bounce, that magic, that pop that I want in a race day shoe. But if we take a look at the heel back here, they did a nice job contouring this foam, and I know this is an elite top tier product that was actually used to win the Boston Marathon a few years ago, but it does have a nice amount of foam out here for us recreational runners, us heel strikers who might need a little bit more support. So stability is great, lockdown is fine, no issues like I've had in the Boston 12 or Takumi Sen. It's just the foam, the midsole, man, something in it isn't completely speaking to me right now. I've got about 5 or 6 weeks left into my marathon, so I'm gonna have at least 4 good 20 milers, and I'm not sure exactly which shoes I'll be using for that, but I do want to start mixing in some more medium long runs, so 14 to 16 miles, getting up to at least 2 hours or 90 minutes. So I'm gonna have to test this shoe again for some of that longer work and also at paces faster than marathon pace, because I have the feeling this might be a good shoe for me for maybe 10K or half marathon pace, even though I didn't completely love it for my mechanics and my weight at marathon pace. Now, a lot of the folks who recommended this shoe to me do consider themselves as bigger runners, and I posted that video about pace, mechanics, body weight, and how all of those factors go into choosing a race day shoe. And one of the common refrains I heard was that for a lot of people out there running 3:30 to 4 hour marathons who consider themselves bigger runners, they absolutely love the Adios Pro 3. So today it didn't completely hit for me, but I'm gonna give it another chance. I also wanna do some head-to-heads with the Gara, the Vaporfly, to see how it stacks up when I put it back to back. And I also think maybe over a longer run where I'm spending more time on feet, perhaps I can benefit a little bit more from this firmer, denser cushion. But as of today, I'm not completely in love with the shoe, and I still think the Diadora Gara, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, is probably gonna be my pick for my race day shoe in April. So all right guys, let me know what you wanna see this compared to. Also, let me know if this required any break-in for you guys. Also, let me know if you had 2 pairs of these. I'm really curious if you feel that the midsole compound has changed at all throughout the last 18 months, maybe. If you had this shoe when it first came out and you picked up a pair recently, do you feel like it's the same exact Light Strike Pro? I might be crazy, but comparing the Takumi Sen 8 to the 10 and comparing the Boston 12 to this, it does seem like maybe they've changed the compound a little bit. I could be out of my mind, but I would love for you guys to do some investigation if you do have multiple pairs of the Adios Pro 3. And also, if you watch this far, let me know all your questions about the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4, because I think that might be what's in one of those boxes out there. No spoilers. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow.